Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, Certificate Programs, Certificate in Nutrition and Child Care, CNCC, CNCC-1 Nutrition for the Community. BLOCK-4 Effective Utilization of Food Resources, Unit-12 Food Selection, I. 12.1 Introduction to keep the family supplied with food within the amount of money available for it, and to make sure that it not only meets the nutritional requirements of each member, but is also liked and enjoyed by them, requires an understanding of the nutritional needs of your family members and an appreciative awareness of their likes and dislikes, and it requires ingenuity not to sacrifice one for the other. It also requires knowledge and information about foods, the choices that are available to you, and the ability to obtain the maximum value for the money you spend. While money is a serious limiting factor for most of us, having a lot of money is no guarantee that we shall be adequately fed. To know what foods are, what they contribute to your health, and where and how to get them, is very essential. You may have plenty of money to buy what you want, but if you do not know what you need and where best to get it from, you will not get the optimum value from the money you spend on your food. In the previous unit, we have discussed how to plan food expenditure within one's income, and we saw how and why expenditure on food forms the major part of the income of most families in our country. In this unit and the next, we shall discuss how best you can spend this money in selecting food for your family, keeping in mind that to a very large extent what you select molds the eating habits of your family and will be reflected in the health status of its members. What are the different kinds of energy-giving and bodybuilding foods available in the market? How to select these foods keeping in mind the nutritive value, suitability and ease of preparation. These are the issues discussed in this unit. Objectives. After studying this unit, you will be able to identify the different types of energy-giving and bodybuilding foods available in the market. List the different food items that are available in each category of the food. Select foods to meet your requirements, both in terms of food quality as well as cost, and list the criteria for the selection of these foods. 12.2 Selection of energy-giving foods. In this section of the unit, we shall identify for you the different types of energy-rich food items, cereals, roots and tubers, fats/oils, sugar/jaggery, that are available to meet our nutritional requirements. Our markets are full of a large variety of energy-rich food items. Within this category of food, there are many different kinds that are available. Similar or similar-looking foods are available at different prices. The purpose of this section is to help you understand how can you decide which foodstuff would best meet your needs. We begin our study with a selection of cereals. 12.2.1 Selection of cereals. From the earliest time, grain has been man's chief means of subsistence. The word cereal is derived from Ceres, the Roman goddess who was believed to be the protectress of grains. The term cereal includes plants that produce grains, the grains themselves, and the food products made from these grains, for example bread. Cereals largely used in our country are rice, wheat, jowar, maize, bajra, barley and ragi. Red and wheat are classified as fine cereals, whereas bajra, ragi, jowar are the coarse cereals and are referred to as millets. Wheat. The total wheat production in India in 1988-89 was 5 million tons. Most of the wheat used in India is used in the form of whole wheat flour. Since almost all wheat flour is used to make either chapatis, puris or paranthas, the quality of wheat produced in India is meant to be suitable for making these products. Wheat suitable for making baked products like bread, biscuits and cakes are different from those suitable for making chapatis. The Indian chapati wheat have the capacity to absorb water to the extent of about 2/3 of their own weight. They make a dough that is non-sticky and stretches with a little effort, but once stretched it stays that way. In other words, it is suitable for rolling into any shape you want, round for chapati, triangular or rectangular for paranthas. How does this happen? What is it that is present in wheat flour that gives the dough this characteristic property? You will find information on this interesting aspect in Highlight 1. Highlight 1. Wheat proteins. To understand the stretching quality of wheat flour, consider the following exercise. Take some whole wheat flour and knead it into a stiff dough. Now that you have kneaded the dough, divide it into 2 halves. Cover the first half with a wet cloth and leave aside. Knead again after about half an hour and make chapatis. Use the other half immediately for making chapatis. What difference do you notice in the texture and puffing quality of the chapatis made from the 2 doughs? Yes, the difference is obvious. Chapters made from freshly kneaded dough do not puff adequately, and also the edges are cracked. In contrast, the chapatis are soft and puffy when prepared from the dough which is kneaded much in advance. Why is it so? It is interesting to note that the baking quality of wheat is due to the formation of an insoluble protein called gluten in it during dough preparation. Wheat, as such, contains about 10 to 13% protein, and of this 8 to 10% is gluten. Gluten gives the dough its sticky, rubbery and stretching quality that is so desirable for our cooking. When chapati dough is kneaded, gluten is formed and the strands stretch, forming a net-like structure in which the starch granules are embedded. This structure helps the dough to rise and thus makes the chapatis soft. Gluten itself is a mixture of 3 constituents. First are the gliadin, which give stretchability to the dough. The second are glutinous, which give you exupity and strength to the dough, and the third is called residue proteins. These are brittle and tend to form crumbs. Wheat that carry about an equal proportion of these 3 constituents and all overall high gluten content give chapatis that are soft and that puff well. An excess of residue proteins causes a leathery chapati, and an excess of gliadins gives you a stiff chapati. The next time you see leathery or stiff chapatis, blame the wheat, not the cook. The traditional Indian varieties of wheat known as sharbati and bansi are particularly suited to chapati. We also have the traditional soft white wheats called pisi, which are suitable for making maida, and Dara wheats of medium hard quality, specially used for making broken wheat, and semolina, for making wheat products like vermicelli. We have the very hard wheat of a special variety called durum. These traditional varieties of wheats have been very suitable for our food requirements. The situation changed with the introduction of the high-yielding varieties of wheats, and with the growing popularity of baked products of wheat like breads, cakes, biscuits, etc. The quality of wheats needed for these baked products is very different from the traditional varietals that we have been growing in our country, and since wheat varieties introduced to India have to be suitable for making chapatis, they are often not the best ones for making bread and cakes. This is why at times we do have problems with our breads and other baked food items. In the late 1960s, the high-yielding Mexican wheats with dwarf plant Sonora were introduced into India. These had dark brown grains and the chapatis made were dark and unappetizing. Since these were not acceptable, the dark wheats were crossed with the Indian varieties like sharbat to give a new variety like sharbati sonda. Some of these new crossed varieties still give dark-colored chapters. After some more efforts, wheat varieties like Kalyan Sona, C306 and C308 were developed to give normal chapatis. Later varieties like Arjun, Janak, Pratap and WL-711 were added to the list. So now you see we have quite a collection of wheat varieties in the country. The prices also differ a lot from one variety to the other. The most expensive and also the best for our purposes is the grade 1 of Sharbati. Bansi is cheaper but not very far behind in giving good quality chapatis. Nutritionally speaking, it does not make a difference which variety you use. Therefore, you can make your choice either going by the price of the wheat or the looks of the chapters you get from it. While buying any wheat, look for plump-looking kernels which are not broken, shriveled, or insect-eaten. See that the wheat is free from insects and chaff etc. B. Rice. In broad terms, rice is classified as fine, medium and coarse. There are strong regional preferences for size, shape, flavor and cooking texture. Fragrant, long grain varieties like basmati, tilak chandan, hansraj are used in the north even for everyday eating. In the south, these are used for making special fried rice preparations like pulaus and biryanis. Fried rice cooked with meats or vegetables marinated in curds, lime and spices, and the smaller, medium or coarser varieties are preferred for everyday use. In eastern parts of India, parboiled rice, slightly yellow in color, is popular, while in Kerala parboiled rice of a rather strong boiled, flavor is preferred. Each rice growing area in our country has its own popular varieties. However, everywhere in India, rice that is at least a year old is preferred since it cooks to a firm texture while leaving the grain arate. This is in contrast to countries of the Far East, where a lumpy and sticky mass of cooked rice is desired. Rice qualities vary a great deal in the way they behave in cooking. The amount of water and the temperature of cooking is crucial. Some absorb more water and cook to a larger volume compared to others. Old and superior qualities of rice cook well in this respect. Selection of rice is a very individualistic matter. However, it is good to remember that rice should be at least a year old for better cooking. If one has adequate storage space, it is economical to buy freshly harvested, new rice and leave it to mature before starting to use it, because new rice is cheaper than old rice. The long-grained fine varieties are more expensive than the medium or coarser varieties. However, in the medium varieties there are many which cook to a good volume and consistency if they are at least 5 months old. About half the rice grown in India is parboiled. You would remember reading in Unit-12, Block-4 that parboiling involves steeping the paddy, rice, in cold water for a few days and subsequently boiling it till the grain is soft, after which the grains are spread out to dry. This treatment makes the husk more easily detachable, renders the grain less brittle and more elastic, and toughens the outside of the rice grain through the gelatinization of starch. Besides improving the nutritive value of the rice, these operations result in a much improved yield of the whole rice during subsequent milling of the paddy. Table 12.1a and 12.1b gives nutritive value of various forms of rice. Table 12.1a, major constituents of various forms of rice. Look at the screen for table content. Table 12.1b, retention of vitamins and minerals in various forms of rice. Look at the screen for table content dash. The nutritive value of all varieties of polished rice is almost identical. It is only the consistency of the cooked product and the volume to which rice cooks that influence one's choice, besides of course the cost factor. However, in the case of unpolished brown rice, which still carries its coat of bran, hand-pounded rice, and parboiled rice, there is a definite advantage in terms of B-complex vitamins when compared with polished rice. Use of parboiled rice in the eastern and southern parts of India is an excellent practice since rice becomes a major source of B-complex vitamins. It is interesting to note that parboiled rice is also cheaper than polished rice. In areas where hand-pounded or parboiled milled rice is used, beriberi, thiamine deficiency disorder, does not occur, but it does when polished rice alone is the main food. C. Millets. Besides rice and wheat, which are classified as fine cereals, we also have a number of coarse cereals or millets that are raised on poor soil. They are called dry crops, and can grow where there is not enough rain to grow rice, or where it is too hot to grow wheat. The commonly used ones are jwar, bajra and ragi. These are commonly grown in the whole of the Deccan Plateau where the rainfall is unreliable. Like rice and wheat, these also have to be dehusked. The grains may then be soaked and made into a porridge or ground into a meal. These processes are usually carried out in the home since millet eaters are mostly peasants. Jwar is the more widely used of these three millets. Grinding this whole into heavy chakki gives a coarse flour that is used, especially in Western India, to make the roti called bhakri. Refer to Section 4, Practical Manual, Part 1. Milled jowar flour makes an excellent dosa ingredient in place of rice, and also gives a tasty chapati if hot water is used in making the dough. Bajra is grown mainly in central and western India. This is used in much the same way as jowar. You can buy milled bajra flour in the market. Ragi is grown mainly in the south, and is an excellent source of calcium. Ragi is soaked, then sprouted for a couple of days, dried, and ground with a little salt and pepper into a powder which is used either as a porridge for young children or in the form of steamed balls by the rest of the family. Germinated ragi powder is also available under various brand names for use as a breakfast porridge. Ragi can be milled in much the same way as wheat. Maize is mostly grown in Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, and Maharashtra. It is milled to make flour in very much the same way as wheat is. You can buy maize in the market and can make delicious rotis from it. Table 12.2 gives a comparison of nutrients in coarse grains and wheat. Table 12.2, Nutrients in coarse grains compared with wheat. Look at the screen for table content. Nutritional factors in selection of cereals. Cereals are the best as well as the cheapest sources of energy. This is the reason why they form the major portion of most dietaries around the world, and particularly so when money available for food is very little. Starch, the valuable energy food, makes up about 75% of any cereal. Cereals also contain significant amounts of proteins, the tissue-building food. These cereal proteins, although incomplete because of a deficiency of amino acid lysine, are well utilized by the body, and when properly supplemented with milk, eggs, meat or pulses and other cereals, they largely meet the body's requirements satisfactorily. Cereals also contain certain amounts of fat as well as fair amounts of minerals and vitamins. They are relatively high in phosphorus but uniformly low in calcium except for ragi. Their iron content varies widely. Nutritionally speaking, all cereals make similar contributions to the diet except for ragi, which, as mentioned earlier, is very rich in calcium. The choice of cereal largely depends upon availability, dietary habits and cost. For proper selection, however, keep the following guidelines given in points to remember in mind. Points to remember: selection of cereals and millets. 1. While buying wheat, look for plump-looking kernels that are not broken or shriveled. 2. Ensure that the grains are clean, free from dirt, gravel, etc. 3. Check carefully and ensure that the cereals are not infested with molds, fungus or insects. 4. Buy rice that is at least a year old since it looks better. 5. Select according to your needs. The long variety of rice are used for making pulav, fried rice, etc., while short/broken variety are suitable for making khichdi, pongal, idli, etc. 6. Buy parboiled rice as it is cheaper and has more nutrients than milled rice. 7. Ensure that the cereal flour, wheat, jowar, maize, is free from insects, lumps and molds. Check your progress exercise. 1. 1. Indicate if the following statements are true or false. Correct the false statements. A. Nutritionally all varieties of wheat are equal. True/false. B. Rice contains a unique protein called gluten. True/false. C. Ragi contains much more calories than other cereals do. True/false. D. Rice is parboiled to prolong its life. True/false. E. Cereal proteins are well utilized by the body. True/false. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU. 12.2.2 Selection of roots and tubers. Some of the commonly used roots and tubers in our country are potatoes, sweet potatoes, tapioca, yam, and colocasia. They are all rich in carbohydrates and provide calories. As a matter of fact, potato ranks third as a source of energy in the world's dietaries. They also contain significant amounts of vitamin C as well. Tubers like yellow varieties of yam are rich in carotenes. Root vegetables like tapioca, commonly used in Kerala, are such high yielders per acre of land that they have served as emergency or famine foods in times of cereal shortages. Potato is the most versatile of all roots. It can be cooked in innumerable ways, and is enjoyed by everyone in some form or the other. Unfortunately, however, we in India do not use it as a main part of our meals. We use it only as an accompanying vegetable with rice or wheat products. There is a very strong case in favor of potatoes being used in place of rice and wheat in our diets, and with a variety of cooking styles available to us, we can surely evolve suitable meal patterns to accommodate the potatoes as the main item of the meal. It can be easily done in a state like Himachal Pradesh where potatoes grow aplenty. This becomes particularly significant when we look at Table 12.3. You can see that the yield of potato per acre of land is almost 6 times higher than that of rice or wheat. When buying potatoes, make sure they are of one variety, well-shaped, smooth and roughly of one size. They should be clean, firm and free from decay. Unless early or new potatoes are desired, they should be matured. The skin should be unbroken and should cling tightly. Excessive dirt, scabbiness, sunburn, hollow or black heart, and decay are all objectionable qualities in potatoes. If you want to mash potatoes, do not buy new ones because they become sticky and lumpy. Old potatoes are best for mashing or making cutlets. Table 12.3. Yield of calories from roots and tubers as compared with cereals in India. Look at the screen for table content dash. Some tips on how to select roots and tubers are listed in points to remember. Selection of roots and tubers. 1. Select roots and tubers which are firm, heavy, free from sprouts, with shallow eyes and without green discoloration. 2. While buying potatoes, ensure that they are of one variety, well-shaped, smooth and roughly of one size. 3. Reject potatoes with deep eyes, green skin or with guts. 4. Select according to your need. Buy old potatoes if you want to make cutlets or any other mashed potato preparation. Avoid new potatoes as they become sticky and lumpy. 12.2.3. Selection of fats and oils. The visible fats that we use in our food are ghee, butter, vegetable oils and hydrogenated vegetable oils called vanaspati. Out of these, the ones that are liquid at room temperature, are called oils, and those that are solid are called fats. However, scientifically the term fat refers to both fats as well as oils. Unlike the West where solid fats like tallow, fat derived from goat or sheep mutton, and lard, fat derived from pig meat, were the chief cooking media till quite recent times, our fats have come mostly from vegetable oil seeds. The earliest of these seem to have been sesame seeds, gingerly seeds, mustard seeds and coconut. These oils seem to have been in use even before the commencement of the Indus Valley Civilization, 2700 BC. The only recent major addition to these traditional oils has been the groundnut, which was brought to India by the Portuguese traders who followed Vasco da Gama in the 16th century. We now also have safflower, sunflower, rice bran and a host of other oils to choose from. For solid fats as a cooking medium, we have a large number of hydrogenated oils, vanaspati, in addition to ghee, which is derived from milk. These hydrogenated oils are cheaper than ghee, and therefore, to a very large extent, have replaced ghee in the Indian cuisine. What does the term hydrogenated oil mean? Hydrogenation is a process by which oils are rendered solid at room temperature. It involves the partial conversion of the unsaturated fatty acids of oil to saturated fatty acids, thereby making the oil look and behave like ghee at room temperature. In Unit 3, Block I, you studied about saturated and unsaturated fatty acids. But what is the significance of saturated and unsaturated fatty acids in our diet? Read Highlight 2 for information on this interesting aspect. Highlight 2. The significance of saturated and unsaturated fatty acids in our diet, like vitamins, Fatty acids also play a role in the growth and health of the body. 3 of these fatty acids need to be present in the diet on a regular basis. They are essential to our diet since they cannot be manufactured by the body. These are linoleic, linolenic and arachidonic. Arachidonic can actually be synthesized within the body from the Bowery fold, and the derived Bowery fold together are known as polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFA. PUFA are essential for various physiological and biochemical processes in the body. It helps in the healthy functioning of the heart. In table 12.4 you can see that saturated fats like ghee and vanaspati are very low in PUFA, while oils have much higher contents. Here again, there is quite a large variation from one oil to another, with coconut oil being even lower than ghee and vanaspati. It is interesting to note that even though coconut oil is liquid at normal room temperature, it becomes solid during the cold season. It does actually contain quite a lot of saturated fatty acids. Table 12.4 Polyunsaturated fatty acids in some edible oils and fats. Look at the screen for table content dash. It is obvious that a diet based completely on ghee, butter and vanaspati will be very low in essential fatty acids. It is also true that there is a very strong and traditional bias in favor of ghee in our country. Next to ghee, it is hydrogenated fats because they look and behave like ghee. Oils, unfortunately, are the last choice. Certain dishes like paranthas, purees and pulaus are just not accepted in oil. Oil is also not accepted as a substitute for ghee in dals and on chapatis. The best solution is to use ghee and vanaspati where we absolutely must, but use oils rich in PUFA for much of the cooking. The minimum intake of vegetable oils rich in PUFA should be 15 grams per day. The color and flavor of the fat. Freshly crushed oils usually look yellowish as a result of colored materials carried over from the oil seeds. Sesame seed, mustard, coconut, and groundnut oils are all colored. Some like mustard oil more than the others. Some of the newer oils have even stronger colors, like the soybean oil, which is greenish yellow, the rice bran oil, which is reddish yellow, and the cottonseed oil, which is very dark in color. Some of the oils also have rather strong flavors which are not always appreciated. These newer oils are not acceptable for cooking in the form in which they are obtained. Therefore, they are put through processes by which their color and flavor are removed. They are then called refined oils. Since these new oils in their refined and bland form have become very popular, it has become a practice to refine even traditional oils like the groundnut, mustard, coconut and till oils are still used in the raw form, but even they can be refined. It depends upon whether you like the flavor of a particular oil, and also on the cost, since refined oils are more expensive. It is, therefore, suggested that select fats and oils according to your needs and budget, but while buying ensure the following points as listed in points to remember. Points to remember. Selection of fats and oils. 1. Ensure that the fats and oils you buy are clean and free from any solid particles, dirt, dust and bad odor. 2. Use more of vegetable oils as compared to ghee since they are rich in polyunsaturated fatty acids, PUFA. 3. DP not buy oils/fats loose from the market, as they might be adulterated. Instead buy in the tin or poly jars. 4. Ensure that the fats/oils you buy have a natural color and flavor. Check your ProRes exercise. 2. 1. Indicate if the following statements are true or false. Correct the false statement. A. Ghee is good for health and should be used for all cooking if you have the money to buy it. True/false. B. Oils have less calories than ghee. True/false. C. Hydrogenation makes fat liquid at room temperature. True/false. D. Oils provide us with unsaturated fatty acids that are essential for our health. True/false. E. Ghee and vanaspati are low in polyunsaturated fatty acids. True/false. F. The process of refining an oil adds flavor and color to the oil. True/false. G. Mustard and coconut oil cannot be refined. True/false. H. Ale fats provide 4 calories per gram. True/false? I. Fats are a good source of proteins. True/false? J. Potatoes are good substitute for pulses. True/false? 12.2.4 Selection of sugar, jaggery and other sweetening agents. People in India knew the art and science of making jaggery and rock sugar as way back as 1500 BC. In the 7th century AD, a Chinese emperor sent a mission to the kingdom of Magdha, modern Patna, to learn how sugar was made. Traditionally we have made either crude brown sugar called gur or jaggery, or khandasari which is lumpy rock sugar. Fine white crystal sugar has been manufactured only since the beginning of this century. This is the sugar we now use. Sugar, jaggery as well as khandasari are used as sweetening agents in beverages and other foods to increase their palatability. Their main, and in the case of white crystalline sugar, the only contribution to the diet is energy. White crystalline sugar is 99.5% pure sucrose. Jaggery contains a small amount of iron as well. The different forms of sugar and other sweetening agents available in the Indian market are: A. White crystalline sugar. This is sugar as we know it. The quality of sugar depends upon the size and whiteness of the crystals. There are 5 grades of sugar, and commonly only 3 large-sized and superior grades of white sugars are meant to be sold to the public, but one very often has to do with the last 2 poorer grades as well, particularly in small town shops. The smaller crystal sugars are easy to adulterate, particularly the ones that are powdery like semolina, suji. The bigger crystal sugars are purer although they take longer to dissolve. It is better to buy large crystal sugars. B. Cube sugar. This is made by compressing small grain sugar crystals mechanically into cubes. Since this process is expensive, the cube sugar is also costly. The cubes are hard enough to retain their shape in packing and transport but porous enough to disintegrate when added to a liquid. C. Icing sugar or caster sugar. This is made by grinding crystal sugar into a fine powder. Usually about 5% of starch powder is added to it to prevent it from forming lumps. This is generally called for in baking and icing recipes. D. Brown sugar. The real brown sugar is made by crystallizing the final molasses, which is the name given to the dark liquidy mass of cooked cane juice that one gets in the process of sugar making. However, in India most, if not all, the brown sugar in the market is just white crystalline sugar which is given a surface color by coating the granules with molasses or caramel sugar solution, which causes the sugar crystals, when disturbed, to move or creep about in a lifelike way. The brown sugar lacks the distant 95.r of true, crystalline brown sugar. The cost of this brown sugar is approximately 22 rupees per kilogram. At this cost, this artificially prepared brown sugar, which does not have the flavor of true brown sugar, could just as well be replaced by white crystalline sugar in most recipes. If you are particular about the color, just add a teaspoon or so of caramelized sugar. E. Liquid sugar. This is just sucrose which is broken down to glucose and fructose either by acid treatment or by enzyme action. It is as sweet as sugar, sucrose, itself, and being a liquid, it is easier to measure out and dissolve in making soft drinks and in canning or baking. F. Glucose. This is available in 2 forms. The solid glucose as powder or as tablets, and the liquid glucose which contains 15% water and is given by mouth for the treatment of dehydration. A word about the use of solid glucose, sold as Glucon-D or Glucon-C in the market. These are recommended and in many cases prescribed as instant sources of energy for not only invalids but also normal healthy persons. You see advertisements all over the place. The cost of these products is approximately 55 rupees per kilogram as compared to sugar which you can buy anywhere from Rs5/ to perhaps Rs per kilogram. Sugar itself is 99.5% pure sucrose and furnishes 4 calories per gram. In the stomach, sucrose breaks down into glucose and fructose very fast, and gets absorbed as fast into the blood as would glucose when ingested as glucose. The time taken for sucrose as a source of instant energy, particularly if you see the difference in cost. A patient of insulin coma would revive almost instantaneously when given a glass of liquid with lots of sugar in it. If you do need instant glucose in the blood, you perhaps need it intravenously. Taking it by mouth is just as good or as bad as taking sugar by mouth. Jaggery. This is also called gur or belem. It is a traditional product made from cane juice, coconut palm, date palm, toddy palm as well as sago palm. Ale. These are very similar in calorie content but differ quite a bit in their mineral content, particularly calcium. The main contribution of jaggery, however, is energy. It is a very common sweetening agent in the rural areas. Quality in jaggery is mainly a matter of light color, sweet taste, granularity of texture and hardness, which reflects the amount of water present. Most jaggery in India is made from sugar cane. However, in West Bengal and Tamil Nadu, toddy palm and date palm jaggery is also used. Coconut and sago palm saps are much less utilized for making jaggery. Honey. This is not manufactured by man but by bees. It is however produced and marketed industrially today by farms that have artificial hives to lure in the bees. Indian honey contains approximately 20% water and 80% carbohydrates, a mixture of sucrose, glucose and fructose. It does have small amounts of vitamin C and B complex vitamins, but this is too small to make any vital contribution to our diets. Microorganisms, including pathogens, do not grow in honey, perhaps because of its high osmotic pressure. In cool climates, sometimes sucrose and glucose begin to settle down in honey as mushy crystals. These can be redissolved by warming. Many qualities attributed to honey do not stand to reason. For example, its contribution to longevity, youthfulness or fertility, since in its composition it is as good or as bad as ordinary sugar. It of course has a nicer texture, color and flavor. Saccharin and related products. These are substitutes for sugar, particularly for diabetics and those trying to reduce body weight. Saccharin is the oldest and the most commonly used of all such sweetening agents. A lot of it goes into the making of soft drinks as well. There has been some scare about the possibility of saccharin causing cancer, but it has so far not been authenticated in human beings. Sodium salicylate is another such sweetening agent which has come under a similar cloud of concern. The latest aspartame has been cleared and is available in the Indian market. Sorbitol is another substitute for sugar gaining popularity in the Indian sweet industry today. From our discussion above, it is clear that there are different types of sugars available. Tips given in points to remember will help you make the right choice. Points to remember: selection of sugar, jaggery and other sweetening agents. 1. Select sugar according to the need. Buy crystal sugar or sugar cubes for tea, coffee, etc. Icing sugar for cakes, biscuits and other baked products. Liquid sugar for soft drinks. 2. Prefer jaggery to sugar as it is more nutritious and cheaper. 3. Ensure that the sugar you buy is free from lumps, dirt and adulterants like suji, etc. 4. Honey should have a natural color, texture and flavor. Check your progress exercise. 3. 1. What is brown sugar? 2. How is brown sugar generally available in Indian markets made? 3. How is liquid sugar made? 4. What is icing or caster sugar? 12.3. Selection of bodybuilding foods. Pulses, milk and milk products and flesh foods belong to the bodybuilding food group, which are the main contributors of proteins in our diet. Plant sources of protein include dates, grams, nuts and oil seeds. Animal sources of protein include milk, egg, fish, poultry and meat. In this section, we shall identify for you the variety of food items available in this category of foods and how best to select the food items according to your likes, requirements and of course income. 12.3.1 Selection of pulses. Pulses include dates, grams and dried seeds of leguminous plants like French beans and cowpeas. We have an enormous variety of these in our country, and just as well, because they are the chief source of proteins for a vast majority of our population that is vegetarian either by conviction or due to financial constraints. Table 12.5 gives the commonly used varieties of pulses in our country. More than one variety is available in almost each type of pulse. It would be interesting for you to find out what varieties are available in your area. Table 12.5 Commonly used pulse. Dals: red gram dal, black gram dal, green gram dal, Bengal gram dal. Lentil: grams Bengal gram whole, green gram whole, horse gram. Dried seeds of leguminous plant: moth beans, field bean, cowpea peas, French beans, soya bean. Nutritional factor in selection of pulses. Let us look into the nutritional contribution of pulses. As mentioned earlier, they are the main source of proteins in our diets. They are very much cheaper than eggs, meat, chicken, fish and milk, and carry as much protein as in meat, 16 to 23%, or probably more. While it is true that the proteins of animal origin are superior both because of a better balance of the 8 essential amino acids, and because of high levels in them of 2 of these amino acids, lysine and methionine plus cysteine, we find that all pulse proteins are rich in lysine and that cereals like rice, wheat, bajra, jowar and ragi have proteins that contain adequate levels of methionine plus cysteine, although lacking in lysine. Therefore, when, as happens in Indian meals, we consume pulses along with cereals, there is reinforcing effect as regards these 2 essential amino acids, and the quality of the total protein that we get from such meals is almost as flood as what we get from milk or meat products. Pulses also provide us with H-complex vitamins, iron and calcium. These nutrients are present in all in more or less similar proportions. Hence the choice of which ones to use depends more upon the cost of different varieties, availability and preference of the family. In the north, black gram and lentil are used much more than they are in the south, where red gram dal is the first choice for sambars and rasms, even though it is the most expensive dal. One can prepare equally delicious sambars and rasms using lentils, and at a lower cost. It is important to mention at this point that there is a little problem with the use of pulses as food, and it concerns the carbohydrates present in the pulses. Carbohydrates consisting of starch or sugars like sucrose, fructose, maltose or galactose can be easily broken down to glucose by the digestive enzymes. Pulses contain 3 sugars that are not easily digested. These sugars find their way into the large intestines, where the microorganisms present ferment them and give rise to gases that can cause discomfort and even pain. Green gram dal produces the least gas. That is why it is preferred for feeding children. Bengal gram dal produces the most gas. Next come red gram and black gram dals. Sprouting for 48 to 72 hours reduces these sugars, and so does fermentation, as in idli and dosa making. Look up points to remember for tips on how to select pulses. Points to remember: selection of pulses. 1. While purchasing pulses, make sure that they are clean and free from gravel, twigs, trash, dirt, mud, stones and sand. 2. Check carefully and ensure that the pulses are not infested with insects. 3. Ensure that the pulses you buy are dry, otherwise, fungus/molds may grow on them. 4. Inspect the grains for uniform size, soundness of grain, absence of broken pieces or any foreign seeds. You are listening to this audiobook on Audio Learn IGNOU 12.3.2, Selection of Milk and Milk Products. We have 2 main sources of milk in our country, buffaloes and cows. To a very small extent, goat's milk is also used, but this is strictly a home affair. Those that raise goats use its milk. Some use it because they believe it has medicinal value. A tremendous technological revolution has taken place in our country as regards milk processing and supply. Only a quarter of a century ago, cows or buffaloes were brought to your doorstep for giving you fresh milk, or the milkman would bring it to you in milk cans. The milkman still continues, but in most big towns, he now brings milk to you in bottles or plastic sachets. In large cities, the milkman has now been replaced by milk vending machines or large milk trucks like the mother dairy ones in Delhi. However, only just 1/10 of all the milk produced in India at present passes through this modern system. Let us take a quick look at this modern system of processing milk. The milk comes from village families who own 1, 2 or more cows or buffaloes. It is carried in the milk collection centers. The milk is tested for its quality and paid for. The quality is assessed by the percentage of fat present in the milk. The collected milk is taken by truck to the chilling center where it is quickly chilled to prevent the bacteria present in it from multiplying. If the dairy is nearby, the milk is taken directly to it by the villagers. At the dairy, all the milk is pooled together whether it is buffaloes or cows and then processed. There are 2 important steps in this processing which are important for us to understand. One is standardizing and the other is pasteurization. Let us learn about these processes. Standardizing. In standardizing milk, the cream is either added to the milk or a bit of it is removed to ensure that the milk supplied would be of identical composition every day. Pasteurization. Pasteurization, on the other hand, is a process that consists of heating milk to a certain temperature for a definite time to ensure the destruction of pathogenic bacteria, which are likely to be present. It is a very important step in processing milk. The nature of milk makes it an excellent medium for the growth of living organisms which may have an adverse effect on its quality. The quality of milk also depends upon the health of the cow or the buffalo, the conditions under which the cattle were milked, and the health and cleanliness or otherwise of the person milking the cattle. In our country, at present, almost all the milk that is available is milked by hand. Pasteurization destroys both bacteria that are not really harmful, but can cause milk to spoil, as well as those that can cause disease. We have had a practice of boiling milk which renders it safe on both the accounts. We have, in fact, become so used to the idea of boiling milk as well as to the flavor of boiled milk, that even when we now get pasteurized milk from dairies we still cannot help but boil it before use, although this is totally unnecessary. In pasteurization, milk is heated to a high temperature for a short period of time to destroy the bacteria. The time factor depends upon the temperature at which milk is heated. At lower temperatures, more time is needed to achieve sterility. Milk pasteurization can be done at 63 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes or at 72 degrees Celsius for 15 seconds, called high-temperature short-time pasteurization, or at 150 degrees Celsius for about half a second, called ultra-high-temperature pasteurization or vaporization. Immediately after heating, milk is quickly chilled at 5 degrees Celsius or lower. This process not only makes the milk safe but gives it a longer lease of life, which means that it can be transported, in chilled condition, in rail cars or road tankers to cities even 300 kilometers away for distribution. To make doubly sure it is again pasteurized after reaching such a distant city before distribution to the customers. Kinds of milk available. Almost 90% of milk we consume in India is still either from the cow or the buffalo. Cow's milk has about 4.5% fat and gives a yellow butter and ghee. Buffalo milk is richer in fat, 7 to 9%, and has more calcium and phosphorus than cow's milk has. Cow's milk has keratins which turn into vitamin A inside our body, and being yellow in color is responsible for the slightly yellow color of the cow's milk, butter and ghee. Buffalo milk has ready-made vitamin A which is colorless, hence the color of the buffalo milk, butter and ghee are white. In all other respects, cow and buffalo milk are almost similar. Thanks to the modern devices which collect, process and supply milk to many of us, we have what is called toned milk. Toned milk is a recombined or technologically standardized product with 3% fat and 8.5% of other solids. The percentage of fat can be still varied to as low as 1.5% or as high as 4.5% while keeping the percentage of other solids at 8.5%. Toning of milk is done by adding water to the milk to bring the fat percentage to the desired level and then adding the skimmed milk powder to take the milk solids back to the desired 8.5%. The purpose of doing this is to stretch the supply of milk to cover more people. Generally, milk is toned to have 4.5% fat. This is the natural composition of cow's milk and is more than adequate for our purpose. During the summer months, when the milk supply to the dairies gets reduced because there is not enough green fodder for the cattle, milk is toned to even 1.5% fat in order to keep up the supply. The skimmed milk powder added to milk in the process of toning has to be mixed into the milk very well by a process of homogenization. If for any reason this process is not done well, the milk solids settle down and scotch in the process of boiling, giving the milk a burnt flavor. Sometimes the skimmed milk powder used for toning has a vitamin B complex added to it. This gives the milk an undesirable flavor. All this, however, happens very rarely. Food products derived from milk. The most commonly used milk products are cream, butter, ghee, curds, paneer and khova. Cheeses that are popular in Western world cuisine are also made from milk. Some of them are now beginning to make an appearance in the Indian households as well. One can also buy condensed milk and powdered milk, both whole and skimmed, fat-free, in the market. We shall briefly talk about each of these milk products. A. Cream. We are all familiar with the fact that when milk is left undisturbed, particularly in the cold, a layer forms at the surface which can be scooped out. This layer is formed by the fat globules from the milk clumping together and rising to the top, fat being lighter than water as a thick layer. This is cream as all Indian housewives know it. The cream is also separated from milk with the help of a machine that can either be run mechanically or electrically. Cream, thus separated, can be thin, 20% fat, or thick, 60% fat, and is either available fresh from the dairy or in the market. You can also buy cream in cans. Canned cream can be sweet or plain and usually has 20% fat. Buying cream from the market is always more expensive than collecting your own. When buying cream, make sure it is fresh and free from a sour taste or smell. In most cases, home-collected cream can be used in place of cream called for in Western or Indian recipes. All you have to do is to collect and store it in the cold and whip it up with a tiny bit of milk to get a smooth texture and then proceed as per the instructions in the recipes. B. Butter. You can make butter at home either from the collected cream or as is traditionally done by churning curd, which gives you butter and buttermilk. You can, of course, buy ready-made butter in the market. The butter made at home has a much higher percentage of water than what is available commercially. If made from buffalo milk, it will be white, if from cow's milk, slightly yellow. The commercial butter has a yellow color and salt added to it. When you buy butter from the market, ensure that it is packed in a hygienic package. It should be firm and have a fresh flavor. C. Ghee. This is one milk product that enjoys tremendous popularity in our country. Using it has, in fact, become a status symbol. The truth of the matter is that ghee contributes next to nothing besides calories to the diet. It, of course, gives a fragrance and a flavor to the food, but at an expense that is totally out of proportion with the pleasure one gets from it. Total dependence on ghee as a medium of cooking is positively harmful to health as it deprives us of the essential fatty acids required by the body and present in vegetable oils. D. Curds. Dahi. This is also a very popular and fortunately, a very beneficial milk product in our country. It contributes excellent quality proteins and a fair amount of calcium, phosphorus, vitamin A and riboflavin to the diet, besides providing useful bacteria which grow and multiply within our intestines, in turn preventing the growth of harmful intestinal bacteria. This provides us with a certain amount of protection from intestinal infections. A small amount of curds goes also a long way in improving the protein quality of a vegetarian diet. It is also an excellent substitute for milk for people who cannot digest milk. Curd should be fresh, with a delicate sour flavor. It should not be very sour and pungent, which is how it becomes if allowed to remain at room temperature long after it sets. The best and the safest curds are what you make at home. You can, however, buy it in the market too, generally from shops that sell Indian sweets. Paneer, cottage cheese. This is a concentrated source of milk proteins. Fortunately, it has acquired universal popularity in our country. Most homes make their own paneer by separating milk with either lime or curds. The latter technique gives softer and finer grained paneer. It is also available in the market in most big towns, generally at sweet shops or the local dairy. When buying a paneer, make sure it is moist and free from fungus or any unnatural smell. It should be almost white in color. Khova. Khova or mawa is made by heating milk in an open kadai vessel till most of the water evaporates and a doughy produce, khova, remains. The milk is stirred throughout the process to prevent scorching. Khova can have as little as 30% water like in dry khova, which is used to make barfi and peda, Indian sweets, or as much as 45% water as the one used for gulab jamuns. Khova made from buffalo milk is softer and smoother because of the higher fat content of buffalo milk. Khova is largely made in villages by those who own milk cattle. It is sent to the city markets in the form of large flat balls. You can now also get khova in local dairies in most big towns. This is safer than buying from the general markets where you often find flies sitting on the product. When buying khova, make sure it is firm and free from any unpleasant odor. Milk powders. These are made to reduce the bulk of the milk and to render it less perishable than liquid milk. Removing 85% of water from whole milk gives whole milk powder. If fat has first been removed from the milk, the resultant milk powder will be skimmed milk powder, which has no fat and, therefore, does not become rancid as easily as whole milk powder does. Whole milk powder has 25% fat and skimmed milk powder has only 1.5%. These are convenient to carry when one is traveling or to keep for an emergency. Table 12.6 gives the nutritive value of milk and milk products discussed above. Whatever be your need, remember always to purchase milk and milk products from a reliable source. The points to remember given below will serve as handy guidelines for the selection of milk and milk products. Table 12.6 Proximate Principles, Minerals and Vitamins in Milk and Milk Products. Look at the screen for table content dash. Points to remember. Selection of milk and milk products. 1. Prefer pasteurized milk to other milk, as it is safe and does not spoil fast. 2. While buying cream, make sure it is fresh and free from a sour taste and smell. 3. Ensure that ghee should have its naturally delicate flavor. 4. Make sure that the butter is wrapped in a hygienic package and is firm and has a fresh flavor. 5. Select curd which is fresh with a delicate sour flavor. Make sure it is not very sour and pungent. 6. Preferably set curds at home as it is hygienic and much cheaper than the curd bought from the market. 7. While buying paneer, make sure it is moist and free from fungus or any unnatural smell. 8. Ensure that the paneer is almost white in color. It should not have discolorations. 9. Buy khova which is firm and free from any unpleasant odor. Check your progress exercise. 4. 1. It is generally observed that dairies standardize milk. What is standardizing? 2. Why do dairies stone milk? 3. What is pasteurization of milk? 4. Fill in the blanks. A. Dull proteins are rich in blank. B. Wheat, rice have proteins that contain the adequate levels of blank and blank. C. Blank dull produces the most gas in our body. D. Blank is the chief source of proteins for most in India. E. When fat is removed from the milk, the resultant milk is called blank milk. 12.3.3 Selection of flesh foods, meat, poultry, eggs, fish and other seafoods. Most of us in India are by and large vegetarians in practice either because of conviction or because of financial constraints. For those who eat the so-called non-vegetarian foods, there is quite a variety to choose from. Here again, the choice of T1 foods is governed by conviction and cost. Certain sections of our society do not eat beef, certain others do not eat pork, and some do not eat either. Some eat fish but no meats or poultry. Some eat eggs but no flesh of any kind. These food items are some of the most expensive food items in our country. Therefore, one needs to know how to buy and prepare them economically. The kinds and forms of meats available include A. Mutton. The most common meat available is goat meat. We call it mutton. Note that in the West mutton is sheep meat. The Westerners find goat meat too strong in flavor, while in India, with the exception of the mountain regions of the north where sheep meat is eaten, in most other parts sheep and lamb are not relished and are sold as adulterants of goat meat. Meat from a young goat is pinkish in color and has almost no fat, unlike meat from an older goat which is dark red in color and has deposits of fat. The former cook faster than the latter, although the latter has more flavor. B. Beef. This in our country is either from cow or buffalo. Unlike the West, where beef is the choicest meat and, as a result, the most expensive, here it is eaten by a relatively small section of our population and is the cheapest meat available. Because of the rising cost of mutton, chicken and fish, the number of B_F eaters is on the increase. Meat from a mature cow or buffalo is called beef and that from a young animal is alleged veal. Beef is darker in color than veal, which is more on the pinkish inside. Veal cooks easily as compared to beef and is milder in flavor. C. Pork. This is meat from pigs. Being a high-fat meat, it is more popular in some of the northern parts of the country and more so in the colder parts of the year. Initially, all our pork came from stray animals raised by individuals and allowed to live off the dirt and filth of the area. This made the meat a health risk. This is still true in small towns, and therefore eating pork is risky. There is a special risk of infection by Taeniasolium, a tapeworm that gets into the flesh of pigs living in unhygienic conditions. Things have changed a great deal with regard to pork in the last couple of decades. There are government as well as private farms where pigs are raised under the most modern and hygienic conditions, and all varieties of pork products are sold through modern outlets. However, since such farm pork products have to be transported over distances, one needs to be careful about the cold storage facilities of the suppliers, as well as the pork chops, particularly during the hot summer months. One should avoid using it in the summer months. D. Poultry. Generally this includes chicken, ducks, geese, and turkeys as well, but in India when we say poultry we generally mean chicken. Chicken is very popular meat here, and its availability has been increasing steadily over the past 10 to 15 years with more and more poultry farms spreading all over the countryside, and more chicken and egg shops dotting the towns and cities. There was a time when chickens were raised as a side business by farmers in the villages. These birds were sold live in the market. You brought them home to slaughter, clean and cook. The poultry scene has changed drastically since those days. You have large farms devoted to only chicken rearing and eggs supply. The birds are raised under special conditions which keep meat tender. These are called broilers. They are slaughtered and sold as dressed chickens. Broilers have large weight and tender meat compared to birds that are grown on an average country farm. It is true that the flavor of the two kinds of chicken meat differs, with the country birds having more tasty meat than the chunky broilers. It is, however, a matter of taste and a question of getting used to it. When buying country chicken, it is still available. We need to refrain from buying larger birds because they are older and the meat is tougher. A properly raised broiler, however, should be tender even if it is large in size. In fact, It is economical to buy large broilers because the wastage in terms of bones on a weight basis is less. In general, while buying chicken, ensure that the skin of the chicken is soft and tears easily. The breastbone should bend easily. If you twist the wing, it should break at the shoulder joint. Fish. India can boast of over 1,000 species of fish in its marine and freshwater bodies and estuaries. Fish is very popular with certain groups of people because of its distinctive flavor and characteristic texture. It is an important part of people's diet throughout the vast coastline of our country, and very popular in the inland and mountain areas as well, where lakes and rivers provide the favorite varieties. Fish is an excellent source of protein. It also provides good amounts of calcium, phosphorus and iron. Sea fishes are an excellent source of iodine as well. Fish also supply vitamin A among the B vitamins, particularly niacin. On the whole, they are nutritionally very rich and the flesh is easy to cook and digest. The edible portion of fish varies in fat content from 20% to 0.2%. A fact which has led to the classification of fish as fatty fish and lean fish. Fishes are frequently divided into two classes, fish and shellfish. The shellfish are, in turn, divided into two classes, mollusks, which have a soft unsegmented body, in most cases protected by hard shells, and crustaceans, which have a segmented crust-like shell. Oysters, mussels, clams and scallops are examples of mollusks. The crustaceans include lobsters, crabs, prawns and shrimp. Most of the fish available in our market are whole, uncleaned and uncut. You must carefully inspect it for freshness before buying. In fish of good quality, the color and skin is bright and the scales adhere well to the body. The eyes are clear and unsunken and the gills are red like fresh blood. The flesh is firm and elastic and has the odor of freshness. There is a little shine on the skin and the body is stiff as a rule. If placed in water, the fish will sink. In stale or spoiled fish, the skin is dull, slimy and pale in color. The scales are loose, and the eyes gray and dull. The gills are dark or pale, the flesh flabby and soft, and an impression made with the finger remains. The odor is stale or even sour, and the body is limp. Usually, when placed in water, the fish will float. Unless you have facilities to freeze food, fish should be bought on the day you plan to use it. It should be immediately cleared, washed, cut if necessary, and kept with a little salt and turmeric rubbed over it, till you are ready to cook it. The best is to store it in a refrigerator. While the loss in the cleaning fish is between 25 to 30%, the loss in cleaning crustaceans, that is prawns, lobsters, crabs etc., is almost 60%. This needs to be kept in mind when estimating the quantity to buy and its cost in terms of the edible portions that you will get. With a large variety of fishes available in India, both freshwater as well as saltwater ones, from tiny ones which can be eaten whole to large ones, one can find enough to suit one's pocket. While a few popular ones are on the expensive side for most of us, there are a large number of reasonably priced ones, large as well as small. From the nutritional point of view, small fish are just as good as the large and more expensive kinds. In fact, the ones you can consume whole, bone and all, provide you with extra calcium and phosphorus in addition to the proteins. Dried fishes also have a large market in India. These are cheaper and provide good amounts of proteins and calcium. They do have strong odors and one has to get accustomed to them. Small amounts of dried fish cooked along with vegetables, particularly leafy vegetables, give you a highly nutritive and reasonably priced dish. Be careful, however, if you have neighbors with a sensitive sense of smell. A word of caution. Fish and especially shellfish are one of the commonest causes of food allergy, which usually shows up as skin rash. Consuming fish which has not been properly stored or carefully processed is a common cause of stomach upsets resulting in severe stomach aches and diarrhea. Eggs. Eggs are much more universally eaten in India than flesh foods. The number of people eating eggs has also gone up in the last 20 to 25 years. This may be due, in a large part, to improved production and handling methods as well as to a recognition of the nutritional value of eggs. Most of the eggs available in the markets are from large commercial poultry farms. However, country eggs are also available in the local markets, particularly in small towns. People who are fussy about the flavor of country chicken also swear by the taste of country eggs. From the nutritional point of view, all eggs are similar, be they white or brown on the outside, small or big in size. Eggs should be purchased fresh and, if possible, kept in the refrigerator. If you do not have refrigerator facilities, you should buy the eggs for only 2 or 3 days at a time during the winters, and a day at a time during the summer and the monsoon. Eggs should be washed well before storage and use. One of the ways to tell a stale and spoiled egg from a good one is to float them in a basin of water. The good ones will settle down firmly at the bottom while the spoiled or stale ones will either float to the surface or stand on end in the water. You will also notice that a very fresh egg when broken on a plate stands up in a rounded form. A stale egg has a tendency to spread on the plate and sometimes it is not possible to separate the egg white from the yolk. Where does one go to buy meats, fish and eggs? In most large towns, there are slaughterhouses that slaughter animals under the supervision of the municipality. The municipality also maintains markets for selling meat, chicken, fish and eggs. Meats available in such markets carry the stamp of the municipal corporation as proof of the health and authenticity of the animal slaughtered. These items are, however, also sold in wayside little shops, particularly in smaller towns. In fact, this is where most people buy them. Here too one ought to be able to buy meat from animals that have been certified by the municipal corporation as healthy and authentic, but this is not always $0. Most of these meat sellers slaughter animals themselves and, therefore, there is no guarantee of the safety and authenticity of the meat sold in these shops. And in the case of chicken, it is difficult to ensure that you are getting the quality you are paying for. Some points you should keep in mind while buying flesh foods are listed in points to remember. Look at the screen for table content dash. Check your progress exercise 5. 1. List the points one has to keep in mind while buying the following. A. Fish. B. Egg. 12.3 to 4. Selection of nuts. We think of nuts as something to munch while traveling in a train, waiting at bus stops, watching a movie, at picnics, or as salted and spiced treats served at meetings, parties or special dinners. We never think of nuts in terms of making a significant contribution to our dietary intake. Surely, you must have come across a not too slim of friend saying, "I had no lunch, just some peanuts," or "all I ate were some cashew nuts, at the meeting this morning." The nuts we are most familiar with in India are almond, cashew nut, coconut, groundnut, pistachio nut, walnut and chilligoza. Almost all of these nuts are too expensive for an average pocket-shelled pistachio at Rs 400/ per kilogram, shelled almonds between Rs 200/ to Rs 300/ per kilogram, shelled cashew nut at Rs 200/ per kilogram, walnuts in the shells selling at R 60/ per kilogram, and even the humble groundnut selling at Rs 15/ per kilogram, shelled. Besides being used as snacks, some of these nuts are also an integral part of many Indian dishes. The coconut is used extensively in Kerala, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh. It is also considered an auspicious item to be distributed to all guests at marriages and other religious functions. Alas, it is now fast being replaced by banana. Cashew nut is also used in many food preparations in the southern states, and so also the groundnut. Almonds, walnuts and pistachio nuts have been popular in the North Indian cuisine, although now they remain as constituents of only exotic dishes on very special occasions. Nuts are similar to dried beans and peas in nutritive value. They are one of the few foods of vegetable source which contain proteins of high quality, some even being adequate or complete. The protein content of nuts varies from approximately 7% in dry coconut to 15% in walnuts, 19% in pistachio, 21% in cashew nut and 26% in groundnut. Most nuts are not high in their carbohydrate content but all are high in fat content, and therefore also provide a lot of energy. All the nuts we use contain on average 50% of fat, with fresh coconut and groundnut containing 40%, dry coconut 62% and walnut 64%. This high fat and consequently high calorie content of nuts, from 450 to 700 energy per 100 grams, in addition to their high protein content, is very significant from the point of view of adequate nourishment in our country. They are a concentrated source of energy as well as good quality proteins for the undernourished. However, their high energy content makes them almost taboo food items for the overweight. While buying nuts, it is important to see that they are not spoiled. Any change in smell or taste will mean that these are stale. The appearance of the nuts is also important. Shriveled nuts are to be avoided. Shelf life. Being dried seeds, nuts have a fairly good shelf life, but their high fat content does give them certain drawbacks. They become rancid, particularly in warm climates. With the exception of cashew nuts, most other nuts are marketed either shelled or unshelled. Shelled nuts are subject to contamination. They also tend to become rancid more quickly than unshelled nuts. The advantage of buying shelled nuts, however, is that they take less space to store. If you want to store them for a long time, say 6 months or a year, you should store them in well-sealed packets in the refrigerator or even freeze them, if the facilities are there. If you do not have access to these facilities, it is advisable to buy them as and when you need them, and make sure what you buy is not rancid. Some factors to be considered in the selection of nuts are listed in points to remember. Points to remember: selection of nuts. 1. Ensure that the color of the nuts is natural and bright. Look out for unnatural spots as they are a sign of inferior quality. 2. Nuts should be free from insects, dirt, stones, foreign matters or slash and parts of the plant. 3. Nuts should have a natural flavor. Any off flavor or change in smell would mean that they were stale. Such nuts should, therefore, be avoided. 4. Avoid selecting shriveled nuts. 12.4. Let us sum up. In this unit you have learnt about A. The different types of food items available in the two categories of foods, namely energy-giving, i.e. cereals, roots and tubers, fats and oils, sugar and jaggery, and bodybuilding, i.e. pulses, milk and milk products, fresh foods, nuts and oilseeds. B. The relative qualities of different foods in meeting your requirements in terms of nutritive value, suitability and ease of preparation as well as cost. 12.5. Glossary. Caramel, burnt sugar. Cuisine, style of cooking. Dietaries, it refers to diet, one's natural food. Dressed chicken which has been slaughtered, defeat her and cleaned. Estuary, a passage where the ocean tide meets the river currents, i.e. mouth of the river. Gelatinization. The term gelatinization is used to describe the swelling and disorganization process that occurs in starch granules when they are heated in the presence of water. Homogenization, a process by which the composition of a liquid is rendered uniform throughout. Insulin coma. Insulin coma is an acute complication of diabetes caused due to low blood sugar levels in the body. Osmotic pressure. It is the physical force necessary on the solution side of the membrane to prevent the next movement of water across the membrane towards the solution and to maintain equilibrium. Rancid, having an unpleasant smell or taste generally due to the fat getting oxidized. Thank you. We will see you in the next video.